We're live. It's me, it's Aaron. Welcome to another Trill Talk. Let us get Ricky into the room. Hey everyone, welcome to Trill Talk Live. Ricky is about to join. I'm sorting out my angle here. There's the man there. Oh, look at this. Double green.
Perfect.
Sure, and I'm not even Irish, according to you.
Half Irish,
Dickhead.
you're half Irish.
Half Irish, my arse.
What's happening?
Cheers.
What's happening? Yeah,
Cheers.
cheers.
Oh,
Cheers.
I
You
brought out
you
my
the good
state's
one.
mug.
States in the past, man. I don't live in the past. I only live in the future. Think about what's ahead. That
All
was
right.
yesterday's news.
Let's get this show started. This is Trill Talk Live. We're back. I'm in the studio. I'm Aaron. This is Ricky.
Ricky win.
How's it going, mate? Good to see you.
Go. Did we both get haircuts? Did you get a haircut as well?
I did, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Looking
you've got
sharp.
your race haircut.
Yeah, I even ditched the tash for the race,
I
man.
knew there was something different. I thought that fella's looking younger.
I felt weird. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a weird transition. I've had that tash for a year, over a year now. Like, because I started growing it while I was training for TDS, and like I had it on my face since then. So when I took it off, it was weird, man. It was really weird. I was like, "Who the fuck is your man?" Looking back at me, like.
And what's the like? I feel like maybe we should give this a little bit of airtime. What is the thinking? Are you thinking that you just needed to change it up a little bit, or is there something about the race? Like what? Tell us more about the Tash.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's like I got a haircut and then I was like, do you know what? I think I'll just get rid of the tash. I like it was a kind of a spur of the moment thing, and it was more like a little bit of me was thinking, yeah, let's be fresh for the race. You know what I mean? Like fresh thought process, fresh this, fresh that, and I just said, yeah, let's just do it. And then we'll think about growing the tash back after. It's just a
Grow
weird one. It's just like I needed something. I don't know.
grow it back for Christmas.
Yeah,
I
it'll
know,
take
like,
it'll take me that long.
but I know what you mean. Like sometimes you just feel like freshening up, or
Mm.
you just feel like a change.
Yeah, that's what I felt. I felt like it was like I was tapering, so a little bit of extra time, and then it was like, okay, I want my legs to freshen up. I'm getting a fresh haircut. Like, from my footballing days, it's very important to get a championship haircut. You know what I mean? You can't turn up to a championship game without a championship haircut. And like I always say it to the guy that cuts my hair here at home. I says, man, I feel faster already once he cuts me hair. Like, and he'd just be laughing. He says, if that was the case, there'd be more gold medals in this town, he says.
It's a state of mind.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the show started. Thanks to our sponsors, XMiles, Tantrums, GOREWEAR. Discount links in the bio. If you're catching up on Spotify, on YouTube, or on Apple, get those links in the description. The agenda today, we've got a training update to do, as we do, because it's race week, baby.
Mm.
Big last big race of the year, potentially, but certainly
Y-
like the biggest race, the one that you've been training for since getting back from States. And also we put out a question box for viewer questions about whatever. So what have we got? We've got questions on tour, we've got questions on worlds, got some training questions, and then we've got just a couple of other random questions which are maybe worth mentioning. So let's kick it off and see like how's the last week of training gone since last week's show and moving into taper. How are the legs feeling? You're obviously looking
Yeah,
fast, but how are the legs?
yeah. I suppose a real moment, right? So this, like, up until the weekend, my legs were starting to come round. There was starting to be a bit of pop in them. But then real life story, right? Because I was watching Jim Walmsley doing I Run Far podcast this morning because I'm not working. I wasn't working today, and I'm not working tomorrow, and I'm flying out tomorrow night. But I was working Saturday, and I was listening to Jim Walmsley's podcast this morning, and I was just listening to it from his perspective, and like his elite status as a professional athlete and how he's going about like recovering from OCC and trying to freshen himself up with a sort of a short taper going into Worlds, right? So that he has a bit of pop in his legs. And I'm laughing at myself going, I laid a floor on Saturday because it was the only day that I could have done it, knowing that when I do it, my hamstrings and my glutes and my adductors are going to be in bits because they always are after a timber floor. Just whatever it is, it destroys my adductors. And like I was going in going, it's okay because it's taper week, full on taper week. So I'm not doing that floor till Saturday. So I get all my good running out of the way before Saturday, before I do that floor. And then the run I had today was just a sort of a leg loosener to get rid of this pain I have in my adductors. But yet, but and I'm just like looking at it from two different sides. From a side that you have the elite of the elite that he gets to do it that way, and this is the way that I do it. You know what I mean? So I do my timber floor a week out from champs, so that come this week I get to freshen up and I get to feel rested because I'm not swinging the hammer all week, and then I hopefully start on race day feeling really strong and feeling really fresh. But I will say that my legs are feeling good, and all last week I was running kind of steady all week because that's just what I do. I run a lot of steady miles, and I think we might get into this later on in the show as well because there might be a few questions about this. But coming up to a race, I do a lot of my running at steady pace to almost threshold pace because number one, I'm only running short distances. I'm only running like 12 to 14 kilometers. So I like to keep the legs turning over because I want my legs to be turning over come race day. So that's kind of where we're at the minute. Legs are coming around. The adductors are going to come around. I'm going to be rested and I'm going to hopefully be fresh.
I love how you're going into taper and the main, not concern, but the main thought is just need to recover from laying that timber floor and we're good to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Whereas Jim's talking about, uh, doing his big shop in France before he goes across to the Pyrenees. So he's eating, he knows what he's going to be eating and doing some recce's of the course. Ricky, you're a different breed altogether.
Yeah. Hey, but that's what it is. That's my life. That's Jim's life, and then you work around it, and you just do what you have to do, and you keep showing up, like, and then that's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. You just have to do what you can do, like.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You're saying about the steady, let's call it steady state running. I would say it's like for people that want to like put it into brackets, we're probably talking about just being a bit more freer in the zone two. You're not worried about where it's flexing to, but you're obviously not burning matches. Let's say it's probably middle to upper level of aerobic, but below the first lactate threshold, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not like I'm not based on heart rate. I'm based on feel. But that doesn't mean I'm not actually looking at heart rate ever. Like I am. I'm still very aware of where my heart rate is at on the run, and like okay, it's not wrist based, but it's not a chest strap or anything like that, but I have it on this side of my wrist because I can get a better reading because I have tattoos on the other side. And I'm keeping it sort of between that. Like I'm running at like, at the minute I'm running at like 440, 430 a kilometer, and my heart rate is only down around 134, 135. If I start to see myself as good as I'm feeling and as fresh as I'm feeling, if I start to see that the run is going to like 159, then I'm like, oh, now you're just being a prick. So back it off a little bit. I want it to feel steady, but I don't, like you said, I don't want to be burning matches. Yeah, exactly.
Are I feel like just by you saying that you're calling me a prick.
No,
So put that into
no.
context. So your heart rate on the steady is in around what you said, but where is it on a session? Like if you're doing like your hill reps, where's your heart rate peaking out at?
Oh, like I could be up around 1. 185, I'd say 185, 190, maybe 190 on a good hard session. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So
On the
Aaron,
higher end, like, yeah.
your man here is burning more matches than you on a daily run. But
So
that's
we're so yeah, but I'm just interested to know, right? Because I only train, like I can only watch my training. I can only see what I'm at, and I can only feel what I feel. But like, what is your heart rate telling you if you're running at like if you're running at a steady run, like a 440 kilometer?
so my zone two is like 140 to a low 150. Like if it went 155, I would think, you're getting up into just over what you would consider easy. But then
Mm,
also if you're running at a 152 or a 153 for a sustained amount of time, that is there's that's taxing in itself. That's more like uh think of it like a marathon intensity then, because when you get into your second hour of that, you starts to be wearing on you. But then if I'm doing my hill reps, uh, I would be up in the low 80s probably
mm.
for like the longer reps. If you're maybe like 6 to 8 minute reps, I'd maybe be hitting up 183, 184.
Yeah,
My max heart rate's like a low 190. But I would almost never get there now because I just couldn't do an 8 minute rep or a 10 minute rep or a 15 minute rep and be hitting that type of thing. That would be more like something you might be able to hit if you're max effort 3 minutes.
yeah, yeah,
And I would
yeah,
just never really do that type of workout.
yeah. Yeah. I'm because sometimes I'm just a prick and I like going into those zones, even when I'm not on sessions, even if I'm on a long run. I like putting myself in those kind of situations where I am at lactate threshold, for an extended period of time. That's just because at that moment in time during the run, a tune came on and I just said, oh, I'm just going to rip it up now for the next 10 or 15 minutes. And I could be almost at max heart rate for those 10 or 15 minutes because I'd rather do that than do a specific session. Like, and I'd be thinking, well, I'm after getting some serious quality of work in that run. Like, and it was fun and I'm getting a stimulus from it, and then I'm running easy on the way back to the van, or back to the car. I do a lot of training like that, and that's why I always think it's a weird one how I train. Like I train a lot like that. It's very sporadic, it's very spontaneous, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but like that's the thing that I've been doing over the past 6 months as well. From I started going sort of self-coached, trying to really dial into the RPE. And like I had a good sense of RP before, and I've trained with heart rate for probably 12 years,
Mm,
not glued to it. A bit like I probably would have watched it way more on runs than what you ever would have done. But over the past 6 months, I've been like changing the watch screen so I'm not looking at heart rate and just
mm,
purely going by feel. And then since going uncoached, I'm not even writing a program. Like I'm not writing a program. I just know you need to do a certain amount of work every week. You need to hit a certain amount of volume every week. And I don't
yeah,
need to write it down to say on Tuesday I'm doing, 6 by 6 minutes or, 3 by 10 minutes or whatever it is. I just know that, today I might feel good and I might say, I'm going to do a session today.
yeah. Isn't that
It's
it's a great way to train too. It's a free
it's
way to train, right?
it's
It's
liberating.
yeah,
Like, because
yeah,
I'm a person that would definitely have had workout, not procrastination, more like workout anxiety.
yeah,
I would have been thinking about, oh, tomorrow I've been given this workout. I need to make sure that I'm fresh. It would have affected me what I had for dinner the day before, what time I went to bed, how much and what I had for breakfast. I would have thought about this for a couple of days.
yeah,
Whereas now I'm just like, I'll go out for a run, and if I'm feeling good, I'll do it today, and if not, I'll do
yeah.
it tomorrow.
Yeah, and then when you do that, the next run you do, you just run it easy. You just run it easy because you know you did the session there, and you'll also like, but if you feel good, you might actually run that next day steady, and then the following day could be your easy day. You know, that's kind of like how I like to do it. Like if I feel good, then I'm going to run. And everyone says you shouldn't train in that gray area, that steady state all the time. I'm sorry, but I think for ultra running, for marathon running, yeah, you don't. Maybe your hard needs to be really hard, and then you need easy to be easy to recover from that really hard. Now I'm talking really hard, but as an ultra runner, it's very rare any of us are actually going to be doing like a 330 kilometer in an ultra marathon, you know, so you don't need that huge drop off. I don't need my recovery miles to be way like 2 minutes slower than my race pace miles. I don't need that. Like I need more steady running so that because it's more beneficial to real life for me. It is anyway.
So, like, what percentage of your week do you think, or how many runs a week or time a week do you reckon that you're running where you're just like plodding, just getting the jog in? Essentially,
Yeah.
you're forced into a recovery.
Yeah, I might do two recovery runs a week, and sometimes only one. Sometimes only one, because the rest of the time, and you have to remember, I'm working all day as well on a building site. So I think I'm just very lucky, as in I have a body that can handle, number one, pretty high mileage, and number two, a lot of steady state running without needing a load of recovery. Like now, the other side of that is I sleep really, really well. You know, so that has a huge benefit to my recovery as well. And then I have a very, very kind of not strict, but a very, very healthy diet that doesn't really waver. It doesn't change. It's always the same. But to answer your question, I would say that I run maybe 1 to 2 easy like recovery sessions a week, and everything else is steady or hard. There's always one hard session in there, like, you know what I mean, one where I'm doing, and it will be that way where I say I'm going to do, it could be like 8 by a K, but it's throughout like a 25K run in the hills, you know. So it doesn't matter where that K falls, that K is going to be hard, whether it's uphill, downhill, flat, it doesn't matter. It's just a K hard, like, you know, and then one recovery. And it's usually on off. It's usually 1 kilometer on, 1 kilometer off. And the reason I do that is because I'm not messing around with a watch. I'm not messing around putting programs into that watch where I'm resting for 40 seconds or I'm resting for 30 seconds. I, I don't like those kind of things. I don't want to be doing that. I would rather do kilometer on, kilometer off. You know, I would rather do it that way. Or maybe something like where I go 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, because I can do that just by looking at my watch. I don't need my watch to be beeping at me. You know, I can just look, right, there's around 5 minutes. Let's take it easy for 5 minutes. That way, I'm getting really good quality in, but it's also simple. I'm not having to overthink it.
Yes, underthinker, overthinker. But
Mm,
I appreciate you saying that because I don't like the programming it in and stuff. And generally, I would actually leave the lap button as set the manual. So if I want to do something, I can just hit lap and then I can easily see the time. But over the past months, I've actually turned the lap button back on because I have no other, I'm not checking any other metrics. So if it beeps and I notice it, I can have a look and go, oh yeah, or whatever. But honestly, like maybe the first couple of Ks, the only time that I end up looking at the watch. And I just think it's like liberating. Last question I have for you on the kind of the steady state daily kind of miles. How are you managing or thinking about the effort then if you're ended up if you hit a hill? Like, because I've put it into context when because I'm doing this more steady state running, not worrying about the intensity, but kind of keeping it in a range, let's say
mm,
4 to 5 plus ish. Um, I find it sometimes like maybe towards the end of a run, I'm maybe pushing up higher intensity than I would want to, purely because like a lot of the hills here, there's just a lot of hills here in Sydney. Like I
yeah.
was running up when I was out running day before yesterday, I was just there was about a K of a hill, right? Yeah, it was 9%.
And you finding yourself just naturally pushing on that hill.
Not pushing, just in the sense that like if you're running steady, then you're putting in like steady work, but the
Mm,
intensity ratchets up as the duration of the hill increases. So if you're running
mm.
a 9% K and you've gone into it, the heart rate just climbs because the workout or because the workload is higher as
Yeah.
that time passes. So how would you manage that one?
Yeah, so what I've done, let's say what I've done most of all this week nearly, would say when I'm running steady, when I do hit the hills, I'm trying to like trying pretty hard to not overextend on those hills, to actually just hit that with the same feeling that I've had like leading into that hill, so that I'm not burning matches going up that hill, so that my heart rate is, I'm trying to keep my heart rate the same. So I am keeping an eye on my watch going up those hills, and also very in tune with how I'm feeling. And if I feel a little bit like I'm cooking myself here, I'm not afraid to like really back it off, because that's still steady. Like that's still me feeling. I want my runs to feel a certain way, because it's tapering and I'm trying to make my head feel as fresh as my legs feel. Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to be in tune with my legs and my head, and kind of go, don't overextend on any of these hills, because the routes that I use here, they're again kind of like you. None of them are really flat. Like a lot of the runs here, I could run a 12K run, and it's all on like sort of like road, kind of really like gravelly trail, but I mean it's road trail, let's say. But the hills in it are punchy. Like there is some punchy hills in it, and I can always get like minimum 150 meters of climbing in those runs, even though I don't want that 150 meters. I have no choice. That's no matter where I go, I'm going to get like 150, 200 meters of climbing. Like, so I'm just trying not to overextend on them.
Yeah, that's the same here. Like I would get somewhere approaching 200 in an hour
Mm.
without like trying not to.
Yeah.
There's just no way, like, unless I was going to run loops of about 3K, there's no way I could not run down the hill, which means I have to run back up the hill. And there's a couple of, other wee hills on the way. So yeah, I feel that.
Mm.
Um, so in terms of training this week, so what day is the long trail race? So today is Monday night
Monday.
for you. It's
Mm.
Tuesday morning for me. Give us an idea of what the rest of the week looks like leading up to race day, which is when.
Race day is Saturday. So I've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? So today was 7K easy. Today was easy because uh my legs were sore from the floor that I did. But you know what? It's funny because my legs actually felt better running than they did walking. So like
The
I
legs
can't
know
I
what
don't
they need to do.
yeah, so they actually felt grand on the run, and right now I'm kind of like stiff and sore again. Tomorrow will actually be another easy run, so that'll be around 7 or 8K, right? Because the way I work it out is I kind of want around 35 to 40 kilometers this week before the race. That's kind of all I need, and then I just need strides. Do strides at the end of all of these runs this week, so I'll do probably 5 or 6 by 70-meter strides. Just again, I know all the benefits that strides do, and they do this, that, and the other, but I just like how they make me feel, right? And because I'm not running long, and I'm used to running longer in the evenings because I have more time, sometimes I feel a bit useless on race week, and the strides just give you that little bit of confidence that, oh man, I can move. You're just trying to trick your brain, right? You just, tell you, man, chomping at the bit, I can move. The speed I did that fucking pointless 70-meter sprint at. You know what I mean? I ain't going to do that in the race, but it just gives you a little adrenaline buzz, a little endorphin high, and I mean that's winning there straight away. So I'll do one of those at the end of every week, at the end of every run, and then I will do a little bit of a session on on Wednesday or Thursday. Again, depends on how I feel. Wednesday could be tricky because we're traveling all day Wednesday and then getting over there. And I think the ceremony, the opening ceremony is on Wednesday evening. So Wednesday could be a rest day. It actually could be a rest day. And then Thursday I'll do a session. Friday a little shakeout run. And then I'm ready to race, you know. But I'd imagine I'll have somewhere between 35 and 40k come Saturday.
Right. Couple of questions. I need to talk about strides. I need to know more about the session, right? So strides, you've said 70 meters. Most people wouldn't talk about strides in terms of meters. So how many seconds is that 70 meters?
Oh, maybe 30 seconds. Maybe
So
30 seconds.
so you're doing 30-second strides, which is like the longer end of a stride.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many are you doing?
I'll do five strides. Yeah.
Okay, right.
And they're
It's
over in a shot. Like I'll just do a walk back recovery. So just run the stride, walk back, do another one. And I'm fully recovered in between each stride.
oh yeah, I think if you think about like Roach is or David Roche,
Yeah.
he's a big strides guy, and he would say like a minute between strides, just a minute walk back, and that's kind of how I would do it. But if you think about going back earlier on, we're talking about like maybe underthinker, overthinker. I haven't done strides
Yeah.
in a few weeks. And obviously, I was doing the fast packing, and none of that suited to do strides. But then for my comeback, I haven't done strides because I was thinking, well, I don't want to aggravate anything after the travel because the
Yeah.
last time I traveled, I went out for a run and the quad just went, you know, fuck this shit. So I've been putting off strides, but I would have been starting off and probably would have done like 4 by 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then if I was just totally back into the swing of things, I'd probably do 5 by 20 seconds. So
Yeah.
it just shows you like the difference. But I kind of like that, like underthinker, overthinker, where I'm just putting it off, putting it off.
But another thing I really like about strides is I don't stretch. I don't really stretch. I might stretch, it's kind of like I stretch when I feel tight. But I wouldn't normally stretch after a run. Whereas, and I think a stride at the end of an easy run is pretty much like a full body stretch if you think about it. You're overextending nearly on everything. You're going through the gears. And again, a stride for me isn't like an all-out sprint, right? Like some people misunderstand what a stride is, and like I've done strides with my athletic club, and everybody in the athletic club tries to beat me in a stride. Like I'm thinking that's not the idea. The stride, is not a fucking sprint. It's not a race. It's where you move through the gears, but you also like really drive the knees, drive up through the glutes. You know what I mean? Get everything really firing, get the calves working, get right up on your toes, get your shoulders right back, your chest right up. I just love that, and it's like you're just working. It feels like you're really like if you ask somebody to film you run, that's how you'd want to be perceived as, oh, that's how he runs. Look
That's
at
how
him,
you
he's like
think you're running.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I want to think I look when I'm doing them, because I want it to feel very like, I don't know, like if it was like a machine doing it, you know what I mean? That it looks fucking class. It just and also I just find that it feels really good, and then once it feels good, it has to be good, yeah.
Yeah, previous like Keely Henninger, pro athlete, she explained strides really well to me years ago. And if you take like a 20-second stride, the first 10 seconds is you're building up. Like you're building up, you're thinking about that, just that perfect like sprinting form,
Yeah,
but you're only building up to like maybe like a 7 out of 10. And over the next 10 seconds or next 5 seconds, I would say, you're building up to maybe just like
yeah,
the 8.5 out of 10. And then you're backing off. So that's, I think, one of the mistakes that people do whenever they're getting into starting
yeah.
strides. You're like, I'm just going hammering 10 or 15 or 20 seconds or 30 seconds if maybe they've listened to you. And then that's a recipe for like straining a calf or pulling a
Yeah.
muscle.
Well, like I was saying in my athletic club, like I tell them, like no more than 8 out of 10. I would say actually no more than 8 out of 10. And I mean, these lads are running at 11 out of 10. You know what I mean? I was going, you've never ran that fast in your life, and you're only doing it because you're with me now. You know what I mean? And you're thinking, oh, this is a race now. That's the problem you have to try and get across to people that it's supposed to be like an 8 out of 10. It's not a max effort. It's just a feel good factor. That's what it is.
That's totally the way it goes. And they're thinking about what was the pace of that stride whenever they're looking on
Yeah,
Strava.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah,
3 minute K, sweet. We're
yeah.
fit. We're fit.
We're fit, yeah, yeah,
Right, let's take into some questions because we're halfway through the show. And I'm just gonna like we do have questions on tour, on worlds, on training, and a couple of other ones. So I think because we've just been talking about training, let's take the training question. Thoughts on the Evoke podcast and the VO2 Max for mere mortals on trail running? So I think putting it into context, VO2 Max training in ultra, what's your stance on that?
yeah. So this is going back to the Tom Evans one, right? Where he was saying that he didn't do any VO2 max work in the lead up to UTMB, and
Yeah,
a lot of people would think that's really strange. Like,
well, it was so Scott Johnson, who is the head coach of Evoke,
mm,
co-creator of Uphill Athlete. He's for 2 years been the coach of Ruth Croft and Tom Evans, and he said since they've been with him, they haven't done any VO2 max workouts, and he doesn't believe that VO2 max is a good indicator of athletic or ultra endurance, muscular
yeah,
endurance, like how you can perform an ultra trail. He doesn't think that there's a big connection to VO2 max. So take it away.
yeah, and on this guy, he had them doing a lot of hiking with weight, with extra weight, and like I already respect and like the way this guy is talking and thinking because I kind of agree with all of what he says because I don't think there's a huge need for VO2 max testing and high end lactate threshold training for ultra runners, unless we're doing Javelina or Western States all the time and they're the only races we do and they're flat and they're fast and you can actually get some of that like half marathon pace into your runs. If you're running something like the World Champs or UTMB, you might do the first kilometer and maybe the last kilometer on something that's moderately flat and you can actually run at those paces. But I think steady state running, high volume is the way to go for ultra runners.
But also, like you're getting that stimulus anyway if you're doing strides to be
Yeah,
able to have that turnover and run quick. But VO2 max as a training stimulus for ultra, maybe no, but VK, shorter distance trail running,
yes.
absolutely. Like that's,
100%. Yeah.
don't they say that the VO2 max is one of the limiting factors for uphill running if you're
Yeah.
running at the intensity? So if you dial that back and think about ultra trail, going uphill with 15 kilo backpack is going to make your legs stronger
Mm.
for what do we do in UTMB? We do a lot of power hiking. We do a lot
A
of
lot of
uphill
power.
hiking.
Yeah.
So whenever you take that weight off and you've got a 2 kilo pack, a 3 kilo pack, naturally you're going to feel stronger on the hills. So totally
Yeah.
down with that. And I got to experience some good training when I was fast packing with my 8 or 9 kilo backpack and 10, 11, 12,000 meters of gain. Right,
Yeah.
next.
Well, on that one, just one other thing. Like a good friend of mine who has like a 2:21 marathon, right? So he's got a super fast marathon. We do always chat over and back, and I do always looking at his Strava, and I'd be saying like fuck me, every single one of his runs are like, 4:15. Now this guy's fast. Like, every one of his runs are like 4:15 a kilometer, And I'm thinking, all right, a lot of my runs are around 4:18 a kilometer, 4:20 a kilometer, And I'm just thinking, is he that fit that he's actually thinking, or he's calling that an easy run when I know that I'm doing a steady run? Is that an easy run for him? But it's not an easy run for him. What it is he understands that the jump is so high to go from, so let's say most people train 80-20. So 20 is hard, right? So you're doing that down around marathon, if not quicker paces, and then your recovery is about 90 seconds slower than that pace. So let's say you're doing a 3:20 per kilometer, and then your recovery is closer to that sort of 5 minute kilometer, right? But when you want to be able to run at 3:25 or 3:30 a kilometer, right? And then you're doing a lot of your easy training at that 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes 30. The jump is huge. The jump is massive from there to there. So come race day, you're going to know all about that jump, and you're going to wonder, how can I ever run that fast? Whereas he trains so much of his time at that 4:15, which is steady, so that the jump is less huge when he's got to do his sessions. And I fully agree with that, because that's kind of my thinking of it as well, so that come race day, I know that I have a body that can do a shit ton of running at 4:40, 4:30 a kilometer at a certain heart rate, and I know that in ultras that will get me pretty high up in the race.
Is he calling those 4:15 runs easy on
No,
Strava?
no, no, no. He's like me. It's just morning run, evening run, and he never says they're easy runs. Like he explains it probably better than me, but the same way I'm trying to explain it. He's not saying it's an easy run. He's saying no run's easy at 5:30 in the morning.
Right. Next question, and we're on to some of the world stuff. So one of the questions came through was, need to know Ricky's favorite hill workout for ultras. So I guess we put this into context, like maybe what was your go-to leading up to States? What was your go-to for Granite Peaks? What has been your peak hill workout for Worlds?
Yeah. So like for for Western States, which is a faster race, more of that what I was talking about, where I do kilometer repeats on the trails over an extended period of time. So I could end up doing 10 by a K on and off. The on is on, the on is flat out to the max, right? And then the off is actually steady. It's not easy. So that I'm not fully recovering, because again I want my body, and again I don't do lactate testing or anything like that, but I want my body to be able to recover at that pace and be ready to charge again in the workout. And I think that I get a great stimulus off that as well. Like, I just think that's something that works really well for me. But then for Granite Peaks, like what I did for Granite Peaks, there was no magic session that was going to get me up and down all of those climbs. It was just me being on that course, putting in big, big miles and big, big days on that course. And that's what won me that race, is that I had an engine that could go. I didn't need to be fast that day. I just needed an engine that could just keep going and go a little bit better than everybody else I was racing.
Yeah, but I think like if I think back to the Granite Peaks and you're training for that 80K in the mornings with what, 5,000 meters or so of gain.
5:3, I think, yeah.
All right. But you would have been going out and doing your runs and maybe thinking, I'll push it on the hills, right? Push the
Yeah.
climbs, which is
Run
essential.
everything. I was running everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but you weren't maybe running down hard, were you? You were like
No.
doing the intensity and up, which essentially is like almost like a fartlek.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a fixed 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is uphill. You were just like, well, on these uphills, I'm going to push. So you were just like working with what you had rather than overthinking the time and the metrics. You're just
Yeah.
push and go as hard up this hill as I can, and then recover on the way down and just keep it all steady, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. With yeah, exactly. And if you were to write that down on paper as a in a program, as in a workout, I can't do that for you. I don't know how I'd be able to explain you to do that, but I just think that I enjoy running up those hills. Like I just say it to you all the time, it's like tippy tappy, you know? And that's a skill that I've just got really good at over the years where I can sort of tippy tappy up all these climbs where I'm actually moving really well, but I'm not wasting any energy. You know, it's not taxing on me at all. It's almost less taxing than if I was running on the flat because I've just got good at it. And I'm very light.
Oh, don't be throwing that into the mix. Sure.
Mm,
That's not going to help anybody.
no.
But you. All right, next question. We'll keep it on worlds. So you will have heard this in the I Run Far interview too, but Jim has had to rehab the ankle after OCC.
Mm.
We saw that crazy 90-degree angle on the Rocket X trail.
He was a bit tongue in cheek on it too. It was funny, a little sort of a smirk because he knew, look, people would be talking about it anyway, you
Yeah.
know.
So do we think this is going to be a factor for Jim during the Worlds?
Ah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the way he went about it, I think his ankle is okay. I think it probably hurt for a few days, but I don't think it's going to be a factor that's going to put him out. I think as other things, I think that that race took a lot more out of him than he would have wanted it to take out of him, you know. And I got that impression of him. And he was honest. Like it wasn't the most riveting conversation he was having in the podcast, but he was very honest in how much energy he felt like he had to use to get the win, you know, and it did definitely beat him up a bit more than he thought. So again, it all depends on how he recovered. And then when you're trying to peak for a race like that's so short, you can't take your foot off the gas completely. So you have to recover but train at the same time. So then your intensity for those, I would imagine his intensity was pretty low, even though he was probably still running and climbing a lot. But his intensity would have had to been pretty low. And then to peak so soon after, that's going to be the question. The only other thing in there is there's another, I think, 6 athletes that could possibly win this race that were running OCC. So they will also have the same fatigue in their legs that Jim has.
Well, I think that's interesting, but also like he would have had to rehab that ankle, which let's say what OCC was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm gonna say probably had to take the majority of that rest that week off. Maybe
Mm,
would have suited to take the rest that week off as well, with it being UTMB week. And then afterwards, you don't have many more weeks to stack some training. What do you 2 weeks
two,
essentially?
yeah, yeah.
So like it would have affected his peak training. He probably would have wanted to do OCC, had then some easier miles rest of that week, and then maybe started off the next week with some like a more intensity again. So it definitely impacted on his training.
Yeah,
Do you think he'll
but
wear the Do you think he'll wear the Rocket X Trail?
I don't know. I seen it. I seen it there. There was a picture on Instagram. He was running with another guy, another Hoka athlete, and the two of them with the Rocket X Trail on them. But that might have just been they were doing an easy run through the town or something. I don't think you'll see them in the X Trail. I just think it's way too technical, way too burly of a mountain range for the Rocket X2 or the Rocket X Trail. Sorry, I'd imagine he'll be Tecton X3, but Jim's Tecton X3 is not like everyone else's Tecton X3, I wouldn't think. You know, I'd say there's maybe extra lug depth and extra magic things in them as well. But an interesting one as well because like on Jim and then you have his teammate Chris Jones. So Chris Jones would have jumped straight back into training. He had no injury to deal with. Again, had a fantastic race at OCC. But he ramped up the climbing. Like he did a lot of climbing. He did 14 hours of training the week after OCC with some huge vert. I mean, huge vert, like coming close to like 10,000 meters. If I'm right, I think I'm right. He puts all his training up on Instagram as well. He actually puts it all up there for everyone to see. So he put in 2 big weeks of vert and then taper. You know, so it's cool to see that. You know, to try and figure out how they're trying to figure out. You know, because it even for them it's hard to know how you're going to bounce back from a race like OCC so soon, quick turnaround, and then you want to perform for your country on the world stage. Like,
Yeah, like see in terms of Chris Jones, I don't think that world's course is going to suit him. Like it's super technical, and him putting in great training means that he's going to climb. Like he's a great runner,
mm,
and he's got a great engine, so he's a great climber. But like he did lose ground at OCC on the descent, and the Pyrenees is generally more technical than Chamonix. So come on, what do you got to say? You're
yeah,
chomping at the bit here.
the only so everyone is talking about how technical this race is going to be or will be, you know. But I asked Chris yesterday, I was uh, dodging around doing something, and then I seen he posted something on Instagram, so I commented and I asked him, I says, in all seriousness, I says, how technical is it? Is it as bad as like everyone's saying? And is it as gnarly? And is it as technical? And is it as like, you know, we need to be afraid of these trails because if you look at them wrong, you'll twist your ankle. And his reply was to me, he says, mate, we're from Ireland. He says, I'm from England. You're from Ireland. We're used to a bit of fell running in the bog and in the muck and in this, that, and the other. And he says, it'll be no big problem for us. He said, you know, he's, he seems to be saying, that it's fine, that it's not as bad as everyone's saying it is, you know, that there is a lot of running to be done at the same time, you know.
Yeah, what's your stats for the long trail?
82K, 5,400 meters of climbing.
Oh,
Straight out the gap, 1,600 meter climb, which
yeah.
which I'm actually that's a good thing for me because it just means that you know, nobody's running away from you on that first climb. You know, it'll still be nice and compact, and you get a feel for the race on that first climb, and then you can, you know, I just like that. I like a race that starts like that.
So we could look at the strong climbers being up front at the start. So one of the questions come in was top picks for the long trail. So shout out some names that you think are gonna be up at the front.
Yeah, so again, you're kind of looking at some of those OCC runners. Like you're looking at Jim, obviously, and then you're looking at Petter. But then you've got oh, his name's gone from me. That was second at OCC. I apologize to
Christian
the
Minoggio.
yeah, exactly. You know, and he spent a good bit of time out there as well, pre OCC and then since and post OCC as well. So he'll go well there as well. You know, again, fatigue and all that in his legs. There was yeah, and Caleb
What
Olsen, and you have Caleb Olsen, who's like Western States winner. Like I know this isn't Western States, but I mean Caleb hasn't raced since Western States, so Caleb is actually coming in trained and ready.
I know, but like we're assuming that. But
Mm,
this will now be his first training block after Jack Kunzel. So we
yeah,
will have been left up to his own devices. New father, you just don't know how that's gonna mix. You know, is he
yeah,
gonna be the same guy? Is he gonna take a step back to where he was pre
yeah.
Jack? Who knows? In terms
Who,
of like
who?
Christian Minoggio, like
Yeah.
he did well. Like he caught and passed Jim with the descending. He's a good technical runner. So
Mm,
maybe this, like maybe on this course, he's stronger than Jim, but then obviously you've got the longer distance, so maybe it plays more back to Jim again. So I certainly haven't settled into who I think's going to be in
hmm.
my top three, but I think Christian's is going to be up there. I think the course
Yeah.
might suit him better than OCC.
Anyone else? Anyone? And then like even on the women's side, even.
Well, interesting one actually. Benjamin Rubiniol, right? He won the long trail the last time out in Austria. And
Ah, yeah, yeah.
if you look at
The French guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if you look at his results, he doesn't win a lot of races. And that tells me that he tries to peak for an A race and the other ones he's maybe runs with a bit less ego, right?
Mm,
But before Worlds last time, he won the High Trail Van Nuys. It's like a 70K with tons of climbing, like big vert course. He won it again this year. in the lead up to
Mm.
Worlds. So I think he looks like he's primed and ready. So
See, that's an overthinker there. That's an overthinker. Somebody like me would never ever spot that sort of shit out. Never.
is that an overthinker? Or, I mean, can you overthink a pick like that? I mean, yes, you can
Well,
overthink your training, and that leads
mm,
into a bit of procrastination. But if you're thinking about your picks, and I just see Josh in the chat, and Josh is my main rival
mm.
in the fantasy league, and he'll be listening to that. He'll be noting down wee notes, going, "Oh, right, yeah," because he needs a strong result to beat me in
Yeah.
the in the league
He
this
got his,
year.
he's got his notepad out. He's got his little yellow notepad out
Yeah.
too.
Well, as long as he's taking the picks from me, he's never going to beat my picks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like about Caleb, so he's certainly going to be up there, but I don't think I'm not wouldn't be picking him on the podium for me.
Yeah.
I think Andreas Reiderer, he's always
Mm.
there. This is the type of race he does well at. I think he put up a post yesterday. Like if you think of he's finished every place on the podium now, and this will be his fourth Worlds. Not calling him for the win,
Yeah.
but he's got to be up there.
Yeah,
I
yeah, he's a good shout. He's a good shout. What do we think about Poopy? What do you think about Poopy?
I mean, how much emphasis does he put in this? I think his priority was CCC.
Mm. But I mean, at the end of the day, these lads, they just like winning. They don't like losing. They don't like coming last. So like it's interesting to see. And when you're riding on a high like that, does he go all in and risk an overuse injury or something like that? I don't know. And I always try and think like this. Like, how do they recover so well that they can do a race like CCC and then go and try and win at Worlds? Like physically it seems impossible, but I mean, over the last few years, we've learned that nothing's impossible. That's why I always wonder what the fuck are they at? Like, what are they at that they can recover like this?
I think though to run at Worlds and represent the country is part of the lure. Whereas
Mm,
I don't think Poopy would show up at CCC and go, "I'll give this a go." Like
yeah,
half of the victory is getting the vest and going to
yeah,
Worlds, which is seen as a real like celebration as well as competition.
yeah, 100%, yeah, yeah,
So I just don't think that the pro athletes look at Worlds in the same way, and therefore it's easier to not go out like I'm purely run to win it. Like
mm,
Poopy only runs races, A races that he wants to win. So I don't think this is an A race.
yeah,
He wanted to win CCC Worlds. I think, look, he'll have a good showing, but I don't think I wouldn't be picking him for the win.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I think that you're more
Uh,
likely to see the likes of that guy Benjamin, Andreas Ryder, Peter Frano. I think these guys are people who are likely to do better in Worlds than your classic names. And then the likes of Jim Walmsley, Jim's Jim.
yeah,
The cream rises to the top, and
yeah.
he did OCC, not CCC.
Not
If Poopy
CCC,
had it
yeah.
did OCC, he would have been that would have told us all we needed to know about where he's putting Worlds in his calendar.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because that is it. It's like is he did CCC, Jim did OCC, and that's why neither of us are picking Poopy for the win. Not saying he can't do it, just saying physically, fuck me, it should be impossible. It should be impossible. You shouldn't
Yeah,
be able to do that. Like,
doesn't look like he's
yeah,
prioritized it, so why would we prioritize him as a pick? All right,
yeah.
next question. Goals for the race, time, position, improvements on Austria for you.
Yeah, again, putting me on the spot, right? And
I
I'm
put you on
not
the
one.
spot.
Yeah,
It's up to you what you say.
yeah, look, I'm not one to ever shy away from a question. I just don't ever want it to come across like I'm being arrogant or cocky or anything like that, or that I'm undervaluing my worth or something like that, you know. So my thoughts are my thoughts, and they're mine, right? And I think I was 43rd male at Worlds last time, so obviously I want to improve on that, right? So for me personally, I would give my left leg, which is my kicking foot, I would give my left leg to finish in that top 20. So goal is top 20, to try my damnedest to get into that top 20, because I think that'd be a massive achievement. But if I finish in the top 50, I'm still going to be really happy. I'm still going to be really proud. And then obviously I want to try and be first on my team, you know what I mean? So I want to be the first Irish guy across the line. And that is no disrespect to the two boys that are running alongside me, Paddy and Killian, but that's just the way of the world. I want to be the best on the team, and I want to have one of the best times ever by any Irish person at a world's competition. Like,
Yeah, no, I love that, and it's real, it's honest, it's respectful. So, down for that. Right, next question. Let's take one on tour. I can't get my head around tour. How do they do it? You know how they do it. This is my theory. From being around a lot of these athletes over the past few weeks, they are not overthinkers.
mm,
They are like, we think about ultra and we think about what do we do? We break it up into aid station to aid station, uh, small mental chunks. The same way that you do anything big. This doesn't just apply to running. Like, break it down into what do I do next? What's next? And just like, you take small bites, and the small bites accumulate to getting everything eaten. All right. So I think the athletes that are doing well at tour aren't like, oh my God, it's 330K, 335K, it's 25,000 meters of vert. They're like, we're going out, we're life base to life base. We're managing as we go along, and they're not thinking of the enormity. Obviously, they're going in prepared and know the body can withstand, days of effort, days of exertion, but they're not overthinking it. What do
mm.
you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you try and if you were to think about it, like, oh, it's 330 kilometers, it's this much climbing, it drive you insane, and you'd probably break after the first day. Like, you know, I think what they do really well is a lot of them work as a team, as in they want to do well for the people that are looking after them, their support crew. So they make it a real thing about getting to their support crew and meeting their support crew and getting some support, and vice versa, giving support to their crew. And they're feeding off energy. They're feeding off the energy. I'd say even I could notice it with Martin, like when he was fist pumping or whatever, and he was just going through the aid station, and he was always trying to smile. And we talk about this all the time, that the happy runners are the best runners, you know, because you have to keep your brain happy even when you're not happy, and you have to keep passing it off and passing off and just getting from aid station to aid station. And even as the race goes on longer, I can imagine they're not even getting from aid station to aid station, they're breaking it down into even smaller chunks. You know,
When I'm
it's just
seeing my
like
crew.
when I was seeing crew, yeah. And even like seeing another familiar face out on the thing, even I'd say seeing you, because you were following them around for days, I wouldn't be surprised if they were even thinking, oh, there's Aaron. And a little bit of communication between the two of you would give them a lift. And that's all you're looking for. You're just looking for little tiny things to give you a lift to keep you driving forward, you know. And then that's it. That's what it is. It's you're just trying to get through it, because it's as much about survival as anything, you know. And I know it's a race, and like there was a great picture of Richard Victor there that you had, that video you had of him where he was hardly able to get up from the table. He was bandaged up, the legs, everything. He was broken, you know. But he had his crew there. They were giving him a little bit of support here, there, and ever, and he knew he had a job to do. He knew he had to get over the line, and it's just support. Super cool, man. Super cool.
Yeah.
My question for you on that was, like, what was your favorite part about following those leaders around for X amount of days? Like, what was your high? What was the best thing that you got out of it?
I think just like experiencing and getting like a window into what they were doing and how they were feeling and seeing how they moved. And it was interesting, like seeing, for example, 250 kilometers into the race, seeing how Martin was able to descend, seeing
Mm.
that he was getting up to the top of a climb, big, like every climb is at least 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, getting up to the top of the climb. I could see that he was tired, but he put his poles away. And as soon as the gravity started to be a factor and help him down again, he just let the legs go. And
Yeah.
he had the confidence that he was able to do that.
Yeah. He was the joy in tour this year, right? Like every time I seen anything of him, it put a smile on my face, like, you know, because number one, he always had a smile on his face as well. But he was that character that race really needs as well. You need to be a character like Martin, I think, to do well at a race like that.
Yeah, and he's actually on the podcast next week, so I'm looking forward to chatting to him because conversations before tour, he just said some really interesting, insightful things, and I just thought it would be great to chat to you after it's all said and done. So we're recording next week. I'm actually recording with Noor, the female winner, recording with
Ah,
her
yeah, yeah.
later on today. So that's probably gonna come out before the weekend, I would think, maybe Thursday or something. We'll drop that one.
Deadly, deadly, deadly.
Last thing on Martin, he always he was able to always smile, and even whenever it was hurting and sore. And one thing actually I noticed that there's no media, there's no press, there's nobody inside the life bases. But I was right at the life base door at Gressony, 104.5 kilometers into the race, and he had a box of chocolates and he took it over and he gave it to volunteers that were sitting at the check-in desk. And like nobody
Wow.
else saw that, but I could see that he had a box of chocolates. And I noticed he had a box of chocolates sitting at his kit bag like two or three aid stations prior to that. And I was like, is he eating boxes of chocolates? And then
Yeah,
later on that night, when I saw him at Gressony, I realized that he has bought boxes of chocolates to give to volunteers along the
yeah.
way.
That's that's actually mind blowing. That, like,
Isn't
you
that
know,
really
that,
cool? Like, that's just like he, all of the
like, that's a
planning you need to
thought
do.
process. Yeah, that's a thought process. Like, he had to he had to stop thinking about his race and start thinking about what he was going to do for those people. Like, that's that's a different animal, if you know what I mean. That's deadly. That's very cool.
Next question. Right, what have we got here? Favorite or hardest section of tour? We'll keep this one quick. Favorite section? Well, you know what? We love the hard sections, the technical sections, and the first 100K of tour is mind-blowingly difficult. I mean, if you can get to Konya, which is 100K in, um, you've got over the first crux of that race. I would say loads of people go far too hard in that section and wreck themselves, and then maybe they've gone too far and they can't recover, and they've got 100 miles to go after that on
Yeah,
destroyed legs. So the first, I would say, like 20 to 80K of that race is just amazing, and then maybe like 160 to 190 is also amazing. Like so much of it is just epic shit.
mm,
Like there's very little of it. There's that little section from like Hone Bar Dunass, which is mostly like streets, and you're going through little villages and things. It's a little bit boring. If you hit it in the heat of the day, it's an absolute killer because it's also the lowest part of the course. You're like down at
yeah,
300 meters, and normally you're coming through little villages and you're still up at like 1,300 meters. I was sleeping in the camper van at 1,800 meters in
yeah.
a town, you know, so Epic course, hard to pick particular bit, but the first like two, three calls are like outstanding.
Yeah, yeah. I like some of the images seen on your Instagram was it's just everything is just wow, stunning, wow, stunning, wow, stunning, and it's everywhere. It's insane looking. Yeah,
And the camera doesn't do it any justice. Like the eye
yeah,
sees so much more than the iPhone. Next
yeah.
question on tour, and I think we've kind of covered a little bit, so we don't need to dig too much here. But what do you think the best training is for tour? You know what the best training is? A big heavy pack and moving slow in the mountains,
Yeah.
acclimatizing on that terrain. So
You don't need VO2 max testing for tour. That's you can take that as gospel, lads. You don't need 330 or less kilometers to train for tour. Don't be ridiculous.
yeah, and like if I look at so many of the pro athletes that were doing well, they were out before tour. They were maybe out backpacking in Nepal. They were out course recon with a pack doing hot to hot, similar to what I was doing. They were doing this maybe for weeks, two, three
Yeah,
weeks,
yeah.
and maybe only finishing a week before the race. So, and like I just think that's the training. And
Tom Jolly said it. I'm nearly sure Tom Jolly said this weeks ago, months ago. I can't remember, but he said it, and this defines ultra running, right? No matter what you're training for, right? If it's tour, if it's a 50, if it's a 100K ultra here in Ireland, doesn't matter, right? If you're doing an ultra, the rule is you don't go hard, but you don't ease off, and I think that's ultra running, as in you're not going super hard, but you're not going slow either. You know, it's like it's fine in that middle ground where you're always moving forward and you're not slowing down. You know, and I just think that was a great line he said. You know, you don't go hard, but you don't ease off.
yeah, no, that was a good one. One of the other things I did notice, like I was using my poles a lot to send them when I was fast packing, and I maybe wouldn't have noticed it during the race if I hadn't experienced it myself. But a lot of the pro athletes were also using their poles on the descents because they're just keeping their legs intact longer. Because we know
Yeah,
that they'll get to the end of the race and they'll still be climbing, but they're suffering muscle damage on the descending because when do you go through 3, 4 days of running and do 25,000 meters of descending in your legs?
yeah,
It's very
yeah.
hard to train that amount of load.
Yeah,
Uh,
and no matter where you are, even if you are living in the mountains, like you're not going to be training to descend 25,000 meters. Like, you know, it's damage limitation, and them boys are that good with their poles, and they're used to running downhill with their poles. Like, I find it awkward to run downhill with my poles, but if it's going to save your quads, learn how to do it.
yeah. Next question, and I'll give it to you first. So, do you think people are doping in 200 milers like Tour?
I I don't think so. Like, I suppose you can never say no for sure, but I mean, I don't think so. I don't think any of the winners, any of the like anyone in that top 10, male or female, I couldn't imagine any of those ever doping. I don't see where you get the benefit from it. I just don't think so. I don't think they're the type of person to be doping.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But also, like, if you think about doping as like EPO, the benefits of EPO aren't necessarily very closely tied to how fast can you hike with a
Yeah,
pack.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
if you were designing doping for that type of thing, I don't think it would be EPO. Now there has been reports in previous, not previous years, but like I haven't heard it recently, but taking um medication, I guess you call it medication, to help with concentration and sleep deprivation. So the likes of modafinil, one of like it's like an ADHD medicine, but it keeps you like the brain switched on. I've heard that that may have been used by some athletes at tour before, but like I'm not so sure. There was
Yeah,
the big chat this year about, a lot of athletes were gonna try not to sleep. All of those athletes that the chat was that they're not gonna sleep, they all ended up sleeping.
yeah.
They all ended up sleeping. 90 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 5 minutes here. So
The only bit of doping I saw at Tour this year was mechanical doping by Martin, who decided not to wear a pack. That's that's smart. That's just smart. That's not. Do you know what I mean? That's like figuring out the rules and figuring out what you need to carry and what you don't need to carry, and then backing yourself that you may not need that gear. Like so, that was just a good move by Martin.
that caused so much controversy. Like
Uh,
I had
that's
so many
changed
DMs about
Tour.
that, so many
Mm.
comments about that, and like next year we're gonna see more athletes do that.
Totally, totally. He's changed, like that little thing has changed the game in Tour and in UTMB. I'm telling you, you see in UTMB even they'll figure out a way to run with. There'll be people that'll be figuring out how do I get lighter. Well, Martin did this in Tour last year. He only used a pack, so I think you'll see more athletes risking a biscuit with a pack.
And he was carrying a tracker, and the tracker was this size, this
Mm.
thick, and it was sticking in the belt. And I'm not so I don't have massive experience of that Kailas Fuga belt, so I'm not quite sure what it is like. It seems like it's maybe a little bit similar to the naked belt, maybe a little bit looser in its fit. But
Wow.
he was able to put poles in the front.
Yeah, because when I heard he was wearing the pack, I imagined, I know we're kind of gone off tangent, like, but I mean, when he was wearing that pack, I assumed it was going to be like one of those Innovate packs or one of the fell running packs, that a lot of the guys wear in the UK, where they literally are like a big, huge bum bag. OMM makes some big ones, where they'd hold a lot of gear, but his one was like a naked belt, like, yeah, I was surprised how much gear he could get into that.
Yeah, the naked belt is at like it's around 2 liters.
Mm,
And those arm belts and the Innovate belts or bum bags, essentially they could be up to 4 liters.
yeah, yeah.
But no, it never felt
Yeah.
like he had too much around his waist. But his rule was, from when I spoke to his crew, his wife, was if he's seeing his crew within 2 hours, he uses a belt.
Mm,
If he was going longer than that, he was using the pack. That said, I never seen him wearing a pack until
mm,
after nearly halfway into the race.
yeah. Yeah, because I didn't see any images of him with a pack on. I don't think I've seen any.
Yeah. All right. Next one, Tour versus UTMB. How do they compare as an organization and as races? I mean, I think, did we have this conversation before? But like, Tour feels like a family. It feels
Mm,
like there's personality and warmth to the organization. I met dozens of people and was introduced by name. I have had media credentials at UTMB for, I don't know, 4 years, and I have not met anyone there in by name. Obviously, I know a few people from UTMB, mostly because they're in the Trail Talk WhatsApp community, and therefore, when I've met them in person, they've been, "Oh, hey, I'm such and such. Good to see you in person." But I've only ever dealt with volunteers at UTMB who are simply just ticking your name off and handing you a bib or handing you or a pass. So very different feel in terms of organization. And then in terms of races, it's just a different
yeah.
beast. Like, how would you even compare the two?
Yeah, like I don't think you're trying to compare them, they're just different. Like I think it's tour is tour is what you do after you've probably done all you can do at UTMB, or if you've got kind of to that stage where you don't want that big hula of UTMB anymore and you want something a little quieter, a little more isolated, and you want to be, I don't know, at one with the race, then that's what you go for. And if you're somebody that's more seeking adventure than competition, then tour is definitely for you. And then it's just like when Tour gets done, then it's Tour de Glaciers. You know, that's kind of just how it moves. That's how we move as ultra runners because again, we'd probably see you toe the line at Tour next year, and then maybe you'll see me crew you, and then me get the bug. So after UTMB, what the fuck do I do? Do I jump in on Tour? And then you do Tour de Glaciers, and then finally we meet at PTL and we do PTL together.
Yes, I love
Yeah, you
this.
know? Yeah, and that's what's so cool about it, isn't it? It's like one it just grows and grows and grows and gets bigger and bigger. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think like they don't compare much as races, but one thing that I think was pretty cool was when I was researching Nora, the female winner, her finishing time at UTMB was 32 hours, but yet she won Tour.
Yeah.
So there's like different strengths that suit somebody that can do well at Tour. Look at um like let's go back to Martin Perrier, second place at Tour, multiple Tour finishes, and he's always done well. But he that's his one of his strengths is that type of distance.
Yeah, yeah. I do think
So
about yeah, I do think about this as well, right? It's like my first ultra probably a 50K, right, and won that 50K, and then it's like okay, it's the sport is getting faster, so it's like all right, so I have two choices. Either stay in this realm and be fighting for like a podium or maybe even like a top 10, or I move up. I move up because I could probably win that 100K going off last year's time. And there's a lot of that, like, you know, we say to the competitive person, and they always say, oh, maybe if we moved up. So if you moved up from CCC, you didn't do too well in CCC, maybe UTMB. And you could actually see that in professional athletes where they don't do so well in CCC, but yet they can crush a UTMB and finish in a top 10 at UTMB, which is insane. What I always wonder then is, all right, if that's how you're moving through your life and through your races to be competitive, how far is too far. Like, how far do you need the fucking race to be? Like, you know, because you'll often say, oh, well, if that race was 2K longer, I'd have beat your man. You know what I mean? You'd say that, like, but you're there going, yeah, but it was a 100 mile race. How long do you need the race to be? Like, you know, just so you can say, I could win that race, you know? But that's, again, the cool thing about this, that's the draw. The draw is always like, geez, I could be better. I think I'd be suited to that distance, you know. And if that draws you in, then it's done its job, you know. Then we've done our job.
if you think about like what makes the best VK runner or marathon runner or these various different distances, the longer it goes, the less the connection is to VO2 max,
Mm,
to pure athletic talent. Other factors come in as you get into like the 2, 3 day races, like the course record at Tour is 60 odd hours. So you're into like
yeah,
3 days of running. It's not just as like it's muscular endurance, it's grit,
yeah,
it's uh, clearness of thought that when you're coming through your transitions, that you're not like hemorrhaging time. Like the amount of people that I would see at life bases and they're just sitting like this.
mm,
They're just the 100 mile stare or the 330 kilometer stare. They're just looking at their kit bag. They don't even know what you know,
yeah.
they're just having like a moment with God. I don't know what they're up to.
But then we could bring Zach Hanna on the show here now, right now, and he would say, you two boys are talking shite. You haven't a clue what you're talking about. The VK is the best race in the world, and that's all that matters. Because I know well that's what he would say, like, you know, because to him, that is the sport in its rawest, in its purest, and it is just like what you said, all about VO2 max, athletic ability, and the best man wins, that kind of way. But again, we're all trail runners here today. You know what I mean? That's this sport, man. It's so cool.
But if Zach was a road runner, he would compete at the track.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where
yeah,
he would go. And like he is good at what he does, but he's sure he'd be shot at a 50K. He would probably
yeah,
never
yeah.
he'd probably not finish 50K. Never mind a
Yeah,
50
and I'd
miler.
love to draw him out. I'd love to draw him out on the show because I know Matty's watching this show now over in Canfranc. Zach could be. So Zach, we don't think you could run a 50k, but he won't be drawn out by that. He'd be like, don't worry about the 50k. He said the VK, the VK.
I used to think years ago that eventually Zach would move up through the distances, and for viewers or whatever, like Zach is one of the top VK athletes in Ireland, maybe the top VK athlete in Ireland, represented the country many
Yeah,
times. But I used to think over the as he matured and got older, he would just gradually step up the distances, but he's not really wavered in that thought process, so I'm not sure
no,
it'll ever happen.
I don't think so. I actually don't think so. I actually don't think. Like I know he's ran. I'm trying to think as he ran a marathon. I'll have to
Mar
confirm that, but I know he's ran a couple of half marathons and stuff like that. I don't know if he's ran a marathon. I could be. Again, I'm not saying, but I just don't see him doing a 50k on the trails. I just don't think he has the growth or I don't think he has an interest in it. You know, it's. I think once he realizes that his VO2 max is dropping off, maybe it's time for him to sign off. You know.
Let's move on from that. Uh, how many painkillers do you think people are taking painkillers in
Uh,
UTMB and Tour? What's your stance on painkillers?
I would say I would 100% say there is a lot more mid to back of the pack runners taking ibuprofen than anyone at the front of the pack. I would definitely say that. I would think that there's actually a huge problem with people taking ibuprofen or painkillers throughout a lot of these races. I'd say if you were to do something on the percentage wise, it'd blow the doors off you. Like I'd say there's so many people taking painkillers, when they get like halfway into one of those races and they just start popping the pills. And I'd say they're popping them every aid station the way they're filling their water bottles. I would think that because I'm not messing. When I first got into the sport and I started going up in the distance, I used to be like taking on ibuprofen or paracetamol or whatever because I had heard so many people tell me, "Oh, you should take one of them at this." So like I try now, unless I have to take a painkiller, I'm not taking a painkiller.
You're not taking painkillers at all strategically. You're only reacting to an injury or an issue.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It'd have to be an injury or an issue that required an ibuprofen, yeah, or a paracetamol.
Well, I will challenge that thought. And what about if your wee feet get sore? Is it not okay to take a painkiller?
I don't know. Like, thankfully, I have good feet. I've never had like my feet hurt me, but I've had like
You haven't
where,
been out long enough, mate. You need to do a long
yeah,
enough race.
yeah, sure. Maybe I haven't ran an ultra. I haven't seen the sunrise and sunset. I don't know. But there's been times where I have taken too many painkillers in a race, and I didn't get rhabdo or anything like that. But what I did get was I got an injury that I didn't know I had because I took so many painkillers, and then I got back into training after that ultra, and then got injured. And it was the amount of painkillers that I was taking. I would think that it was the amount of painkillers that I was taking that had an effect on me that was masking an injury that I had that I just didn't, that I probably forgot about. I probably took the fucking painkillers for that injury to stop it coming on, and then it just went away for a little while, but then came back as soon as I started training again.
Yeah.
I've
I,
seen that. Yeah,
would you pack painkillers though in your drop bags or with your crew as a safety measure?
I would. I would. Yeah, yeah. I would have paracetamol with my crew. Yeah, I would. Because again, you just never know. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't take painkillers strategically, but I would always have them in the kit bag, or even actually I might have a couple of pills just in my pack, and with like sometimes you have to carry like a medical
Yeah.
kit, bandage and shit like that. I might take
Yeah,
a
but
couple or have a couple with me.
sure I had to get a few off you in Western States because my hip where I fell and my hip was killing me and it was like the power was gone out of my hip. So it was like, well, we either can't run or we take this and we might be able to run. So you're always going to take that option. Like if it keeps you moving, you're going to take that option, you know?
And I think it helped you as well. I think like after about 30 minutes, you were like, oh, I'm not sure. And I told you to take another one and then started to come round a wee bit, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely did. Yeah, definitely did. Sure. That's what they're for.
Well, who knows? Right,
Yeah,
next question.
but we're not telling people you should take painkillers. That's all I'm
I don't
saying.
give a shit if people take painkillers or not. Like, I'm not here to give
Yeah,
advice. People can
yeah.
make their own mind up,
Mm,
but there's enough literature and stuff out there that people should be responsible with it. Like,
not
there's
not a doctor, not a doctor.
not a doctor. Anyone that takes our advice for that type of thing needs to
Yeah.
check their head.
Yeah.
Right. Did you ask Jacket Man why he wears a jacket? And this is relating to Zhao Jie, the Kailas Fuga athlete who was 10th at UTMB and unfortunately dropped from Tour. But he was right up there, like at 200 kilometers. He was running with the lead pack, and I think he dropped around maybe 220 or somewhere around there. Always has a jacket on. He actually started the race in a balaclava
Aye, yeah,
and
yeah.
nobody knew who it was. I didn't even know who it was, but he was about a half a K in front of everyone at the start in the first 2K of the race. He gunned it. And I saw him at a couple of stages along the race, but when I was running alongside him in Bard, which is like, I don't know, maybe 170 Ks in, 180 Ks, maybe a bit less, about 170K, he had the gloves on. He had the lecky things over the gloves. He had the jacket fully zipped up. He had nothing on his head, but he was
And the
wiping.
sweat rolling off him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yes, I did ask. I did ask, like, why, and it's because he was cold.
yeah,
That's why
yeah.
he keeps the jacket on because he gets cold.
And the sweat rolling off him because it's roasting and it's not cold. But
Yeah.
is he just sort of saying, well, I'm going up here, so there's no point taking it off because I'll only be putting it back on. But I mean, it's not a great way to warm up though, because if you're sweating that much and you're getting wet inside, then by the time you get to the top of the climb, you're going to be freezing, and because you're wet from the sweat.
Yeah, and
So
he was
I,
wearing the same, like he was dressed in he was at the same at 3,000 meters as he was at 300 meters.
yeah,
Like whenever I
yeah.
saw him and his sweat was lashing off him, it was, I don't know, 10 a.m. It was 18, 19 degrees. And he
Big mitts on him.
so, but I questioned it. I like questioned it further when that was the answer. But you
I'd
know
say
what?
you had more questions than answers after you asked him that question, that's for sure.
I did not feel like I got to the bottom of that conundrum.
Look, and it's hard to make sense of a man that has UTMB done and a top 10 finish at UTMB, which is mightily impressive as is, and then 200 kilometers into tour, and then you ask him a question, you're probably not going to get a great answer.
Yeah. Well, I didn't ask them during the race, and I did question it also with team members and crew people. So that's where the information came from, not specifically from him because he
Yeah.
was always in the thick of battle. So one thing I did find out about him, though, I got an opportunity to ask other questions like, what's his history? How old is he? Like we never hear about the Chinese athletes from the Western media because, like, as I even said to the Chinese people that I was talking to, our barrier here is sometimes even knowing how to say the name. And there's
Yeah.
probably like five or six names at best that we now know as regulars from China who do well in the global races. Him being one of them. So like he's 30. He's been running ultras for like, I think it was like 7 or 8 years. And he's one of the most well-known runners in China, period. So
Mm.
like he's won so much over in Asia. So I
Yeah,
think
he's
it'd
like a
be
celebrity there, probably. Like,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think it'd be interesting to learn a bit more, and I hope that I can over the course of the coming years have an input on that and try and shed a bit more light on some of these athletes. Right, Ricky, we need to start thinking about wrapping it up. I don't know if we're going to get to all of these questions. What do we think we're going to see new at Worlds this year compared to the previous couple of years? Do we think we're going to see anything new? Like, we're going to see some new commentary. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see some more Americanization of trail with Worlds in Austria. Any hot takes?
I just know that they're doing the live feed in three languages, which again is huge, right? Because like last time, it was there was a live feed and they were on bikes, but it was a bit broken and it was very new at that time, kind of like on YouTube. Whereas they seem to have figured it out, and there'll be a lot more mountain bikes on the course, and then you'll have three different languages covering that live stream on the YouTube channels as well. So coverage seems to be definitely on the up and up. But again, there's a lot more hype behind it this year. Every other year, it's just getting bigger and bigger. And I think also America has a lot to do with that as well. Like, because America bring the hype, you know what I mean? So they're bringing a big, strong team as well. So there's more eyes on it this year because I think the fact that America are bringing such a strong team. So I think that definitely adds to it as well.
What
Just
the
does,
rest of the world can't bring the hype.
They can, but like America just know how to bring the hype, man. They do. They know how to bring it, hey. Like they're the world champions of baseball. You know what I mean? They bring the hype, hey. Yeah.
Hype factory number one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that'll wrap us up on the questions. We have a few more, but we'll have to let them sit. I think we've got some people to shout out that have been racing. So at Tour on the 330, Tom ran 109 hours, so a solid couple of sunrises and sunsets. So he got a proper ultra in there.
You
Unfortunately,
passed Aaron's test. You passed Aaron's
yeah,
test.
with flying colors.
Yeah.
Chrissy unfortunately DNF'd, but through like a respectable DNF, if you can have one. Like she missed the cutoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
She'd been managing a couple of issues, and that maybe pushed her back a bit in terms of, and she didn't realize some of the cutoffs were so tight. So unfortunate, but like she showed a lot of grit, where
Yeah.
towing the line and tackling what you tackle. So I'm sure she's going to come back at that.
Yeah.
Um, Mark in the 100K or 105K. Wait to hear this. Tour 100, 34 hours is
Was
how
it tour
long?
100 or tour 130?
I think it was 100. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it
Okay.
was
Okay.
100. No, I looked it up. It was like 106K or something with 8,000 meters of gain and around there. 34 bloody hours.
Yeah.
That's, a solid sunrise and sunset and into the next day. So respect to Mark on that one. And then Wild Struble, um, Adam with a finish there. David with the DNF, unfortunately. Too many DNFs in the community races this week, but sure, that's how it goes. That's part of the sport. You
Yeah.
you finish or you learn. You get one or the other. And then Seven Sisters, maybe the hardest 50K in Ireland was last weekend. Gary and Thomas both with the finishes, and Ronan, the most inspirational man on the east coast of Ireland, unfortunately with the DNF. So
Yeah. Now
well
Ronan will
done.
take that on the chin and he'll just bounce back and enter into. He's probably doing an eco trail this weekend. I guarantee he's doing an eco trail this weekend. So, you know what I mean? If you race all of the races, you can DNF a few of them. So,
Yeah. Uh,
what's Ronan saying? Anyone can do it. And if
yeah.
anyone can do it, Ronan, you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Respect and commiserations to all of those guys. And then in terms of the fantasy league, mate, I don't even know if you did picks for tour. Did you?
No, no,
You're a
no.
dickhead.
Very busy, I'm very busy. I'm very busy. I completely forgot about it. I'm telling you, man. Don't be relying on me to win fancy free trail for you.
Well, I'm still sitting second in the league. You're P16. So
Hey, 16's not bad. 16's not bad.
are you gonna submit picks for Worlds?
I will. I will. I'll do words. Yeah. Yeah. Look at
The
it. I'll
long
even be sound. I won't pick myself. I won't pick myself.
the long trail is in the league, so submit your picks for that. Ricky, I think that's us. The last thing we gotta say, join the Trail Talk WhatsApp if you want to talk shit about training, racing. If you want to follow the commentary on Worlds this weekend, we'll be doing it in the Euro chat in the Run Europe group. So jump in there,
Come
repping.
on, Ireland.
Yes, let's go. We also have, I don't know, there's loads of groups. The link's in the bio, the link's in the description. We've got trail, shoe, and gear reviews dropping on YouTube. We recorded some great stuff in Chamonix. The editing starts now that I'm back in the studio. And I mean, I need to just tell you, whenever you're out there and you see a hill, doesn't fucking matter. Get up the hill. And I'd be saying that to
Yeah.
you for this weekend. Get up that
I'll
hill, Ricky.
definitely
It doesn't
that
matter.
mantra. I'm putting it in there, man. You and it doesn't fucking matter. Or I'm gonna drill them in there, man. Drill them in there. Look, Smudge is here to tell me, man, it's time to go to bed.
Time to go to bed. All right. Look, mate, and everyone, enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you soon. Peace.
Peace.